All right, folks, Simon here, and I am covering a 2021 TAC Open tournament match, this time between UnSweet and ManaT, two absolute titans of the game. ManaT is a strong player. UnSweet has been a very strong player for a very long time, and it's shocking almost how he still, after all these years of playing, over 5 years, hasn't learned PTN, but still remains a very strong player. Gives a lot of top players a run for their money. Just beat Abyss, I think, just yesterday or the day before. So, in a practice round. So let's get on with it with game one right here. Game one with ManaT and UnSweet. ManaT in white, UnSweet in black. And a little interesting on the opening here, quite different than what I would have expected. So we are seeing, yeah, it's a very interesting opening and much different than what I'm used to. I don't know what to make of this. It's kind of like that mirrored opening, and it's sort of like the Knights opening at the same time, except more like the Knights opening, but for black. Huh. That is unusual. All right, so we are seeing that Capstone finally drop over here. White deciding to take that bend, and I think that's interesting. Black might just decide to play up here at A2 and start going for their own vertical line in that direction and cutting off the horizontal at the same time. I feel like Black almost has to play at A2 here because it just seems like such a great move. Though it may invite White to drop a Capstone here onto A3, and that would be a great Capstone position, even though it is on the edge there. UnSweet taking his time on this move. They have been playing fairly quickly right here in the opening. These first few moves going quickly. And we do see Black play that at A2. If I were to give this to one person based on perceived skill level that I think who's probably a better player, I'd say it's probably UnSweet. However, he can be a little touch and go. Sometimes he may be streaky and inconsistent, but can play an amazing game of TAC up against Abyss, for example. The other day, he won against Abyss, but ManaT also does some great games. He split his 2 games against Nohat Coder in the previous round. And as someone who did that, let me just say, it's not easy to do. So it looks like Black is playing around here, trying to get into that vertical line and trying to deny White the opportunity to play for their own. ManaT taking his time here, trying to figure out what the best move is. Does decide to play out at D2, which is interesting. Very interesting. Black playing off the side. Instead of making the capture, instead of playing up at B6, decides to play off to the side. Strange. Not capitalizing, but also White hasn't played that Capstone yet. All right, we do see that capstone capture after the E2. I don't know about that. I'm not sure what the reason was for that one. I feel like if white does A3 minus, black's going to have to do some capture, and then it's going to open up a spot for white to drop the capstone in a really good spot. But playing over here at F2, I don't think was the right play for white. Now black is going to come down with A4. And then potentially white comes over with B2 to the left to renew the threat. And then when they do that, black can come down, and then you've got white dropping a capstone here, unless black decides to drop a flat. Oh, coming over with C3. I'm not quite sure I understand why that was the move played there. But will we see black play up here at A4 and continue their attack threat? I feel like they have to play up at A4 so they can take care of the move when they move B3 left. It seems like both players are letting a lot, are giving their opponent a lot of leeway. They're not playing very aggressively, but they're also not playing very defensively at the same time. It's like they're playing sort of defensively, but yeah, it's sort of defensively, but I don't know, it just seems like there's almost something lacking. Okay, he does play at A4. Now, black does have attack threat here. White's going to need to interrupt that somehow. They can interrupt it just by placing up at B6, or they can interrupt it by capturing over onto the A line, or even from B3 up to B4, though that would probably be the worst possible move he could make, because it would give that capstone a nice juicy stack to take. All right, he does take that stack, and that's right there on A3, and then the capstone immediately drops. All right, that makes a lot of sense. And I am joined in the commentary box by Gowellja, which is interesting because just the other day we had a match between Gowellja and Aliano2, and UnSweet was one of my co-commentators, and now we've got Gowellja as a commentator for the UnSweet game.
I believe what they call that is turnabout's fair play.
Turnabout fair play. And hopefully you guys can hear Gowellja. His volume is a little low, a little on the low side. So I've cranked him up as high as I can, and we'll see how that works out. But right now we're looking at black trying to come up with some play here to combat white dropping this capstone in this position. He's going to want to move this stack for sure. I think just picking up the whole thing and spreading it out up is the best move, because he does have this D3 flat that he can bring down right onto D2 and interrupt that whole road area. And then that big stack here with all these flats that white wants to liberate is out of the play.
He can't pick up the whole stack because he can't leave that spot empty.
Oh, that's true. He can't leave that spot empty. You're right. Because that would be attack threat. So we'd have to leave behind just the white and the black flat and then bring up those other two. And that's exactly what he did just now. So now black has attack threat. White's probably going to capture over onto a3, and then we'll see d3 come down.
Also possible is the capstone coming down, but I think that's the weaker move.
Yeah, for sure. It would have been a great move if d3 weren't there. That would have been a really great move, but yeah.
Definitely liking white at the moment for myself, particularly with white's ability to go up and free the captive at a5 at some point.
Yeah, I think that white being able to capture that big stack was really really important for him, and now black is sort of on the back foot here. But black
Yeah,
does need to protect that spot, and we may be seeing a wall drop pretty soon, or maybe a flat drop on c3 or on e3, and we do see the wall drop on c3.
Yeah, what I'm seeing just globally is really limited ability of black to make threats for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, black doesn't have a lot of options here. Most of their threats are going to be tied to these flats over on a5 and a4, and those can both be covered up by white's capstone in that solid +3 move that also liberates another captive. So yes, a lot of opportunity for white here to play in solid position, but black is gonna be in trouble and gonna be on the back foot here.
You think b3 for just a attack renewal threat? Yep.
Looks like that's what it's gonna be. All right, black is taking their time here, trying to come out with the best option. And I was thinking about just playing off to d4 and kind of forcing white to respond to maybe a black tack threat. Because what white wants to do is create a tack threat that black can't stop immediately with a wall. And black can stop a d3 minus road. Oh wait, that's a road for white. White can win right now. It looks like black missed it. I was thinking he was going to do something first, but nope. Black missed it. Now white can just bring d3 minus and win with a road. And I wonder if they're discussing if that was a misclick or something else.
No, it's just missed.
And white missed it also. White didn't see their own road.
That's pretty unexpected for these two players, for me at least.
Absolutely. ManaT and UnSweet are both very strong players, and to see them both miss a road like that is just insane. And it looks like it's like black is counting on white to miss it again. Wait. What?
This is confusing.
It said white. Confused. Okay, black. Wait, did black resign?
White resigned. There's a story here.
All right, what just happened? All right, hold up. Hold up.
I saw the screen say white resign. Oh no, it must have said white wins by resignation or time.
But here we are with game 2, right out of the gate. UnSweet as white and ManaT as black, going in with their adjacent corner openings and right into that center control.
Yeah, that certainly is not supporting your busy parent thesis.
It is not supporting my busy parent thesis. All right, so it looks
More
like we're going to be
standard.
checking this game out and trying to figure it out. We are
That's
seeing this
very.
standard mirrored opening with that capstone dropping again, this time with ManaT as black pulling that off. And a reminder, ManaT did win the first game with white. So it is up to UnSweet to try and even the scales here.
So one thing, looking at this position, the C2 placement, I probably favor, if you're going to go with a mirrored opening, going with a C5 over C2, just because if I'm going to have an opportunity to get this sort of wraparound that we're seeing along the two row, I would rather that be along the 5 row where it's farther away from F1. If I
I'm
can
with
do
you on
something
that.
to make the F1 square irrelevant, then I will.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I've attempted when I've done a mirrored opening like that, I've always attempted to try and get the black capstone placed in such a way and my white flats placed in such a way that I can wrap around away from the initial black flatstone piece. But sometimes it's not always possible. But here we see white dropping a capstone right next to black's capstone. And I think that that's going to really come back and bite them because now black's got momentum going up in that vertical direction.
Mm-hmm.
Though it can be cut off pretty easily by a C4 right move. And so white just may decide to play up above at D5 and cut that off.
Yeah, but black can follow suit at E5. Black's
That's
still
true.
got initiative. It's black's initiative to lose.
I do think white should be playing for the vertical threat, and I think that they missed the opportunity by placing at D5. They could have placed at B4 and been fine. But now they're going to go for it. Playing over here at playing at B5 allows them to come over with C4 onto B4 and make that threat on the next turn. And so black's going to want to do something about that, whether that be to capture onto C4 first, maybe with D4 or something else. We'll see. Maybe they'll play flat up at C5 instead.
Yeah, the B4 move was what gave away the initiative
Yep.
for black.
Well, I mean, let's see. Playing here. Yeah, playing at B4 did give away the momentum there. And so we do see black play at C5, and then white immediately plays up at B6, making that tack threat. And so black's going to want to make a capture probably onto this spot, maybe with D4 coming left, and making their own tack threat at the same time as they block it. It looks like that's what they do. And then immediately white comes over and stops it down below.
The question is, do you capture down with the capstone? You come up with C2, or do you ignore it for now? I'm disinclined to ignore that stack on C2 as black does. Not.
Now this is where if I'm black, I'm transitioning to a horizontal road, and I'm going to play down here at E1 and at D1, and then be able to use my capstone stack to spread across to the left.
Yeah, I would also look at the higher horizontal along the 4 row, maybe just as something to get the capstone to come up, so it's less close to the B2 square.
Yeah, that's true. If white does play on A4 on the next turn, that is a tack threat that black's going to have to respond to.
Right, and preempting that would also be useful. Then again, you preempt that white comes up with the wall, and then they can just spread for the tack threat. So
that's true, and that would be a very strong tack threat. A drawbridge, as they're known.
Oh, I don't really like that term. I like the concept, but I think walls do. I think there's more kinds of threats than walls than just one term.
For sure. I'm with you on that, but it's the only one we got right now. And you
Sure.
can blame Rabbit Boy for that. He's the one who coined that term. So,
Blame assigned. Yep, there we go. Both players seeing the threats.
both players combating those threats with their own. This is where, it might not be that bad to give up your wall positioning to smash down on, or not smash, but to capture down onto C2. But I think that I would want to play at A4 first. As white, I want to play at A4, and then when black makes whatever move they're going to make next, then I use my wall to come down onto C2. And the idea behind that is I use my wall after I've already got that A4 placement. So black can't smash the wall on C2. Otherwise, they give me a road. And so that's my idea. That's why I think A4 would have worked out really well. As opposed to being super defensive with D1, you can be defensive and offensive at the same time with the A4.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would be tempted if I were black to play a little bit of a longer game style here, where I'm going for a more robust threat, trying to fill out E3 and F2 and 3, just to overwhelm the white flats there.
Well, you don't want to play at C3.
No, not C3. E3 and
E3,
F2
okay,
and
yeah.
3.
All right, so white did come down with that wall. I do still think the A4 before the wall throw would have been best.
Yeah. I like the smash.
For black?
Yeah, for black. You smash. White either comes down to capture the fat stack, and then you wall, or white does something else and you just go right back to it after freeing some captives.
Now, why in the world is black playing C4? I'm not, I don't get it. But yeah, I get what you're saying there, but I think that it's really risky to give white a hard capstone with so many pieces there.
Yes. I think it only really works because you're so close to the corner and you can hem it in on both sides. But yeah, I'll concede that there's some risk there. There would be less risk if black goes for a C6 placement to make attack threat when he does it. Pin the just prevent white from being able to move the capstone at all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I really like a C6 placement here. I don't see any particularly pressing threats for white. Yep, there we go. I'll bet that's what he's going for. If white doesn't respond, I think we'll see a smash this next turn.
Yeah, I don't know what white's going for right here, but black seems to be going kind of all over the place, but they've got a lot of ability to do that right now.
Yeah,
All right, now black doesn't have the opportunity to smash.
how's the flat count? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 for white. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Oh, they don't have it set. They don't have the flat count set for this match at Comey of 2.
Yeah. They seem to have forgotten.
Let's see how that messes up the automated system. I assume there's some sort of manual override built in.
Yeah, I'm sure Archie will figure that out. Okay. See, I have a hard time playing both of these people specifically because they do moves that I don't understand. And so sometimes that comes back to bite me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the same problem right now trying to commentate on their match because I don't know what's going on. I can assume that maybe e4 is meant to come over onto d4 at some point, and that would be attack threat because coming over with
Mm-hmm.
e1 or e1 first. I don't know. ManaT in the chat in Discord saying that UnSweet resigned in game one and that they accidentally started this game without Comey, and then asks if that messes up the score scraping and all that jazz. And um, the only response to that I have is to just shrug and say, "Who knows?" But we'll get there when we get there. It looks like we do see a capstone movement from White going b3 plus. I'm surprised to see the capstone move like that. But I also understand it.
I
Now,
think
if
there was
White takes d4 left, that's attack threat, and not an easy one to spot. I mean, it's not particularly hard, but it's also not particularly easy. And there's currently no attack threat for Black. I don't know why White did that with the capstone instead of using the flat on d4, but okay.
I mean, there's a part of me that wants to believe that they're going for more robust threats, so you can have a threat with sort of a two-prong connection on the sixth row, but that's the Black can just interrupt it at the two row with the capstone, so that's perplexing.
Yeah, I get that. And that's why I was saying that d4 left would have worked out better, because you could have done d4 left first, then if they captured with their flat maybe on c5, for example, the capstone can come over and just be stronger and be able to make more positive flat count differential moves in the future. And so White does now, by filling in at d6, does now have that tack threat by coming e2 left. And so Black, it's possible Black doesn't see it, but looks like Black saw it and interrupted it. And now I am intrigued to see what White comes up with next. Will White be playing at b2 to be... Ooh. No. White's not playing at b2. White's coming down with that capstone and now has a friendly White underneath the stack and can use that to make a +3 flat count differential move, moving to the left. Can use that moving to the right to make attack threat. They've got quite a few options now. I actually like that capstone move there from UnSweet. Now let's also take a look at the time here. UnSweet now, just now hitting that 15-minute mark, which is the time they started with. So he's been playing just about at a 15-second average turn time, whereas ManaT's down to 12 minutes on the clock. Just 23 moves into the game. And it looks like Black played over here at b2 to keep White from playing there. If
and
I'm
to
White...
develop the horizontal threat.
Yeah, it is. It is also... It's not a horizontal threat, but it's working towards one.
Developing it, yeah. Are you tempted by the +3 move? That's probably where I would be thinking.
I like the +3 move, but I want to set it up better first. So I'd want to place at c4 first, maybe. Or maybe place at a4 first. I want to be placing before I make that +3 move.
I would place at c4 probably because that's a desirable spot for black, for the black's vertical
Yeah, for
potential.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, C4 does look like the best placement spot right now for me.
If only black could figure out some way to smash. Maybe a placement at B1, if that's possible, down the road. Then you can smash and make the tack threat.
Yes. That is possible. Yeah, I guess black placing at B1 would enable that. Because then white would have to respond.
The stack you leave behind could dismantle the threat, though, and
that's true.
That's disqualifying.
White instead decides to play at E3 for some unknown reason. Because white can't make a tack threat on the next turn, black can.
It's 13-11 black's advantage in the flat count, if I'm correct.
Yeah, black can play at C4 now and force a response from white. Or it can play at B1 and force a response from white.
And you're not necessarily concerned about adding flat count differential potential because black can only take advantage of that in one direction. Otherwise, I would be looking to avoid a C4 placement, but you already got the +3 move to the left.
Yep. This is a game where I am left scratching my head a lot. I feel like we had that on the previous game as well, but mostly because they both missed the road that white could make. And I think maybe that's why UnSweet resigned, is that he's like, I missed this road and you should have had that, so I'm going to resign. He's weird like that because he often has weird things, like he doesn't like to win with flats and stuff like that, so UnSweet's a character, and so you never know what his motivation is.
Got the simple placement threat here with C4.
Yep. And I'm not sure what white's going to do about it. If they play at C4, that does stop the threat right away. And looks like that's what they're going for.
I'd be tempted to capture over E4 to D4.
Yeah, and that renews the threat for sure.
Mm-hmm. And normally you would expect to lose the capture war, but here you won't because white can't move the C4 piece.
Mm-hmm. And also moving E4 to C4, that's a tack threat by either capturing, E4 to D4. That's a threat by moving the D4 to the left or by moving the B4 to the right.
Mm-hmm. Because it kind of snakes around the white capstone.
Yep, it goes on either side.
Also, that would be a tack threat after the capture war down. You leave a white flat on D3, and then you have a black on D2 and a black on D1.
And you'd be able to spread it down all the way down to D1.
Yep. Yeah, I really like E4 over.
Yeah, I think it's the best move right now for black. Although he's probably thinking about smashing on C1 also. Because that is also tempting, and having B1 there means he can do that. Although it's a risky play, it's also a fun play. And I think if I were to pick out of these two guys who would go for the more fun play, it would definitely be UnSweet, because he does fun play moves like that. I do that sometimes also. I think it's a holdover from the early days of TAC when we just kind of did stuff for fun to see if it was viable or just to have an interesting game. And
The really fun thing for me today was losing an asynchronous match to ManaT with his peasants variant, and losing to a Dragon Claws.
I did see that, and it was a great Dragon Claws
Yeah, they were
ending. And
both.
you can never be mad about a Dragon Claws ending. Oh, he did go
Yeah,
for the
we
E4
see.
left. Now, how will White respond? Are we going to see a D5 minus here? Because there are
It's
other moves he can make.
the attack you identified with B4 over. That might be a lot trickier to see. White might think that just bringing over the capstone stack onto B3 and A3 will do it. So I think there's some sneakiness here potentially.
Yeah, because White taking the capstone left does leave the B4 right move open, and that is a difficult to see tack threat if you're focused on the other one, moving this over to the
Mhm.
left. Like, because you're going to be focused on that because that's where the action started, but it can easily go the other way. And
I
it
like Black's
sneaks
position.
around that capstone all tricky like.
I really like Black's position.
Yeah, Black's got a great position here. I'm trying to think of any weird moves that White can do to get out of this, like maybe spreading the capstone out upwards towards C5. Maybe that's viable, leaving two white flats on C4 for some reason. Like,
Yeah, but that's really painful though, because Black would have easy renewal at F2 for the
yeah, for
horizontal.
sure. But it's still just a weird. I'm just trying to think outside the box here because other than that, the only thing I can see is D5 minus. You know,
There's a couple of
you can
options. You
do
can
A1
capture,
right.
yeah, you can capture B1. Ideally with, you can capture B1 ideally with A1. You could do it with the wall, but that wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah.
But C6 would, I think, be the obvious defense if
Yeah,
you're
that
seeing
too.
all the threats.
Now, what would you go for? Because it looks like White's trying to focus on this D line, so White would probably use B6, right? If they were to capture onto C6.
The other possibility is not to leave 2 on A4, but to either just take the whole stack up, or just the capstone with the 2 black flats.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
I think capturing C6, well, C5. Okay,
Going
C5's
for
fine.
C5.
That's fine. I think they were pretty equivalent with the 2 white flats on either side.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see an aggressive wall placement at D5. I think that could be good for Black.
Yeah, it would be pretty strong for Black because White wants to capitalize on this now and probably spread out for that +3 move going left and make that tack threat.
Yeah, the wall wouldn't help with that
Nope.
immediately.
I mean, it would immediately. No, it wouldn't. You're right. Because the black wall dropping at D5 wouldn't be able to stop the threat because the threat would have been from B6, B5, and then over onto B4, connecting
We
to
could.
A3.
I would also consider an A5 wall, looking at the C5 stack, but coming through B5 first. But then that's also not playing very centrally. I think the easiest thing is just renew the horizontal threat at F2.
Yeah. And I don't think Black's looking at the horizontal threat lately. I think Black's been focused on the vertical and goes for the D2 minus. Interesting. That's
Yeah,
not how
I
I would have done that because now the
don't
wall
like it.
can come over right.
Yeah, you just added a liability and a pretty high liability given the proximity of the wall.
Yeah. And also, because of the wall coming over, the wall now has the opportunity to make a +3 move. Wait, can it? One, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, it can make a +3 move and make attack threat at the same time. Because if it does make that +3 move by moving to the right over
Mm-hmm.
onto E1 and F1, then
And you
that's
get the
attack threat because
capstone
white
cap.
has that white flat underneath the C3 stack and can move it over to D3, and then boom, that's a road. So black kind of blundered there by making that capture. I can't imagine that
Yeah.
was the move they wanted to make. Now, this is where we might see that C3 stack move left now that that wall has been placed.
Yeah. You think the whole stack might move? I guess that sets up another +3 move, but it's not really a +3 in the long run because it's a -1 and then a +3.
Well, no, I was saying the stack spread. The C3 move going left.
Oh, I
If it
took you to
spreads
mean
left,
C5.
so
Yeah.
4C3 left 1-3 is
Hmm.
attack threat for white.
Yeah.
And it's the one that cuts out this D5 wall and makes it so it doesn't matter. But now,
Yeah.
so like a moment ago, it was like black is in charge, black's got everything going for it. And then as soon as
Hmm.
black makes this D2 minus move, it's like, oh, now white's in charge, white has everything going for him.
Yeah, I like white's position. I don't know about A6 as a placement though. I think that's redundant.
Yeah, I don't think that was the play here. If anything, you would want A5 more than A6.
Hmm. Right. Because now that wall can stop the spread threat.
Exactly. I don't think that was the play here, and they may have given black the power yet again.
I don't think it's. I think it's swayed maybe back toward black a little bit, but I think that +3 move potential in the F1 toward F1 is still really powerful. So I
Yeah,
think
it is.
that exchange was still net positive for white.
Though white
Uh,
could lose that +3 move if at any time black decides to capture E1 plus.
yeah. It looks like black is up just on the Comey, 2 flats, 11-9, if my
Okay, and it
count's
looks like
correct.
white is trying to build for a horizontal threat here up at the top of the board, wanting to maybe smash this wall on C5 to make it happen.
I am skeptical that ManaT would fall for that.
I don't think that ManaT will, but white's getting flats on the board, and I think
Hmm.
that's nice. And also, white placing up here at E6 does two separate things. It builds toward that horizontal line up on the 6th row, but also
Hmm.
is building on that E column, which is where this +3 move over at D1
Yeah,
makes that
true.
anchor point down there at E1 to go for that vertical road at the same time. So here I
Yeah.
can definitely see white playing at F6, putting the pressure on, forcing black to make some sort of capture, except they can't do that because black now has attack threat by moving E4 left. And so white has to respond to that threat.
I unless white captures C6, I also think or C5, well, we can expect a threat renewal or should look for one on D2 or D5 snaking around.
And I think that this might be the time to move this C3 capstone stack upwards onto C5. Or potentially just up onto C4.
Yeah, I like moving up the capstone stack. Either all of it or just the top three, because you're setting yourself up for a high flat count differential move up on c5, c6, and also setting yourself up for the horizontal tack threat.
Yeah.
I would expect the b5 wall to go up if the capstone makes its way to the 6th row. Because at that point, it can't smash because of the spread of the stack it leaves behind as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
The time is also reversed. We have UnSweet at 6 and ManaT at just over 7.
Yeah, this is a tricky position for them right now. Does decide to move that whole stack upward.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm terribly concerned if I'm ManaT about the horizontal thread at the top. I might consider building horizontally.
Yeah, I mean, you can build horizontal by playing maybe at c3, or what I think would be better would be playing at e4 first.
E4 was what I was looking at.
Yeah, because e4 is fine because playing at c3 works and all, but you've got this capstone right here, so if white decides to play a wall at c3 to stop you, you just smash it. So you start off at e4 first.
Right. And I actually wouldn't even worry about c3 at all.
Yeah, because you also have d2 to play at the same time.
Yeah, e4 would be my move here, I think. Although you're giving white some ability to... Ooh, okay. Just
Going for the
renewing the
threat right
threat.
away. Now, this is tricky because white might be tempted to capture over onto d4, and if they do that, they lose. Because black can bring this capstone stack from c2 all the way up onto c4 and capture onto that vacated position and make that road. So while it might be tempting to take that spot, probably not the best of decisions here. White, I'm going to say, might make this plus, was that a +4 move? Up onto c6
Yeah,
with this capstone stack.
that's what I expect.
It's a +4 move and it's attack threat. Not going to make it though. Instead, going to just move 1 up.
Still like
Surprising.
e4 because that capstone has a view on both c3 and c4, with black having b3, b4, d3, d4, the whole combination of all of those. That's
Yeah.
really powerful. Oof. Okay. That's a threat.
Attack threat yet again. Will white finally commit with this capstone up onto c6? It's almost like black's trying to drive the capstone up to c6 so they can basically sequester it there. Because that wall stack on b5 is just waiting to come up onto b6 and ruin that whole horizontal line.
So we've got 13-9 black advantage on flats. I really like black's position here. I think it's really flipped in the last couple of moves. That's
White making the
perplexing to me.
capture. I think white does at some point need to flip to this vertical threat on E.
I'm a little worried about a possible Tinue if white can get a hard cap along the top. Or at least if I were black, I would be it's not too scary at the moment, but it's there.
Because of that wall stack on b5.
If white can play at f6 and just leave the flats at C5 and just move the cap onto C6, then there's some possibility. It's not
But
like high likelihood, but it is just something to look for.
black does, however, have that capstone stack at C2 that can spread all the way to the top.
Yeah.
Additionally, if black were to make some move preemptively, say B4 right, then white could never move up for the hard cap because then that spread would go for a horizontal road.
Yeah. I maintain that it's something to watch for, though.
It is certainly a possibility. Now, what is black thinking with F2?
Thinking he's gonna win on flats. We're starting to get moving in that direction.
That's that might be the idea here, and we do know that UnSweet is averse to winning on flats. Okay, so we do see the E4 placement, and this is what I was saying before. It might be nice to see white go for this vertical threat, where they can take this +3 move from D1, make that, and then they've got this capstone to be able to smash anything that's on E5 to make that final threat. Black makes a capture. This is another tack threat in the horizontal direction, placing at D2 or using the capstone and moving that over to D2 would be a threat, or bringing D3 down to D2 would be a threat. This is where I think that +3 move with D1 would come in handy.
I think a B6 black wall placement would also be nice.
You're just really worried about that idea of the hard capstone up there.
No, this is more from an offensive standpoint. White would have to waste a move if they didn't want the stat captured, and then the wall could capture C6, and that would be a tack threat, leaving behind the black flat at D6. And it does have the effect of diffusing the horizontal thread at the top of the board. But it's also just a more subtle, fairly subtle road threat, and good for the flat count differential.
I see where you're coming from here.
Plus, that would be a way to diffuse the sort of nascent vertical thread along the E column if you can get to E6.
That was completely unexpected.
D1 placement?
Yeah, I mean that renews the road threat. I don't know what white was doing with that move.
Being enigmatic.
Yeah.
I almost want to bring the cap stack over to D2 to threaten the wall
big stack
for the smash, because if you smash it, you make a tack threat, and I don't think the stack you leave behind can do anything about it.
Yeah, but I don't think that white really has any options at current time to deal with what black is doing right now. I think that that move from D1, spreading that stack upwards, I think that essentially started Tinuay for black.
Yeah. Because those two flats on the A column are not sufficient to defend.
Nope. And so now black is going to play at A2 because this this definitely seems like Tinue to me. And I think that it all started because of that wall movement from D1. I think if he had moved right, he would have saved it and potentially come out on top in this game. But now, because of that one move, it looks like it turned way in Black's favor to the point of it being Tinue. At least I'm not able to come up with a solution to save White at this point.
Yeah, I don't think there is one.
Like, my thought is if White takes A3 minus again, like 2A3 minus, and Black places at A3 again, then the only idea would be to take
the wall stack
stack left. But it doesn't look like they're doing that.
Well, I mean, this is just back and forth until the carrying capacity. Yeah, that's a resignation.
Resigned.
Well, that was exciting.
That was exciting. UnSweet gave up both games to ManaT. ManaT taking a sweep here. Interestingly enough, though I do want to find out the story behind that first game, why he resigned, because I am very curious about that. I have asked the guys why there was a resignation in game 1. And I think we'll begin. Oh, UnSweet is saying he resigned because he gave up the road and noticed it afterwards and just decided to resign because they both missed it, I guess. And he felt like he needed to lose, I guess, is what the consensus is. And he says, those were probably the worst games I have played, says UnSweet. So there you go. But that is all for today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the description below to find all things TAC, especially the Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of people to play with online, whether on playtac.com or on the Discord server itself asynchronously. Like Gowellja was talking about earlier, you can play correspondence games where there is no time limit in between your turns. It's just as long as you want to take. You can take one turn a day if you'd like. Anyway, that is all for today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.